Good afternoon. Welcome to Network Roundtable. It's been a bit of a crazy week for me. I have been painting all week. I have probably spent 3 hours since last week's show at a computer, and that's pretty abnormal for me. So this show, as a result, is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to because, well, I just didn't have the preparation time. But we do have an amazing superhero and an unbelievable sidekick. I have totally been enjoying meeting him in the last 15-20 minutes here in the green room, and I can guarantee you, ladies out there, you're going to love this guy's accent. So, yeah, right, Stephanie? She's like, yeah, this is all that and a bag of muffins. Yep.
We say bag of chips, but whatever works, Dennis. Whatever you want.
Chips. There you go. Yeah. Or crisps, as the case may be, right? So, this week's guest is also one of our sponsors. We have Alois Belaska. I don't know how well I did there, but, you know, doing the best I can. And he is with Friends+Me. He started this thing. Amazing tool. Absolutely love it. If you don't have it, go get it. This thing is really fantastic. And he has brought with him this week Jonathan McDonald from Thought Expansion Network, who's going to expand our thoughts on fuel. So, as we typically do each week on Network Roundtable, we are going to ask first Alois to tell us why he brought Jonathan as his sidekick, and then Jonathan, you're going to tell us why you think Alois is such a perfect superhero for this week.
That's too much, Dennis. What kind of superhero I am? Jonathan was the first man who actually approached me when I started Friends+Me. He first offered his help to help me understand how to grow my business better and how to understand not only myself but the business itself. And it was just one Skype, and everything changed. It changed everything. I was never the same after that Skype. So I was thinking completely different. I was thinking more about people, how to help them, what should I actually do to help them more, and what is it all about. So that's actually he's my personal hero. What can I say more? He's an amazing guy.
Thank you, man.
Hero, love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, I first contacted Alois because, well, just to give a tiny bit of background, my life over the last 20+ years has been helping set up lots of companies and also advise a double-digit percentage of the Fortune 500, normally at chief exec level or board of director level. And I'm fascinated with how the changes in business, society, and technology interact with each other. And so because of that, one of the biggest findings, I guess, has been, or realizations, is that there's so much noise around nowadays. There's so much flux and distraction. And so I'm hell-bent on finding ways in which my life can be more streamlined. And so I have relentlessly, over the last decade or more, tried to find ways in which I can do less. So I can maybe publish something one place and it can automatically go somewhere else, or I can use a tool that is more streamlined and efficient. And then finally, thank goodness, I found Friends+Me, and it solved pretty much everything that I was looking for, due to the fact that I had accepted that in my head that at the end of the day we're in a situation where Google Plus is an extremely, or can be an extremely effective tool to use, and I have had the honor of working with some of the Google people in the background as a kind of silent advisor, and so I realized that the importance of G Plus is such that that should be my primary publishing channel and engagement channel, to be more on point, and so it's so easily configurable. So yeah, so Alois is just great, and I just emailed him off the site, I think, and just said, hey man, I think it's really cool what you're doing. But I think there's some other things that could kind of be discussed. So I'd love to have a Skype call. I have no interest in charging you. I'm kind of more like a Robin Hood in that instance. I tend to bill people who have got the money to be billed, and the people who don't have the money, I don't see that as a payment relationship. So I said, let's have a call, and if in half an hour on a Skype call there can be anything valuable, then maybe it's worth it. And at the end of the call, Alois was nice enough to say that it was a value. So I'm honoured to be here.
It was absolutely valuable. It was great. Thanks. I cannot thank, as I said before, I cannot thank you enough.
Thanks, man.
It was amazing.
Well,
Right.
that's exciting. You know me, Dennis. I just want to jump right in, but
Jump in.
Would you say, Alois, maybe that talking with Jonathan actually added fuel to the fire that you were trying to create with Friends+Me? Do you think it kind of either propulsed you in a new direction, or maybe helped you find the right direction? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Jonathan helped me to find the right direction. Before that I was moving in circles. I was still looking something that I should do, but I couldn't find it. And he helped me to focus, and that's what is it all. It's very important to focus. It's really important, because when we wake up, we have only such an amount of fuel we can burn that day, and all we can do is to use it more efficiently and to focus just on things that really matter, because otherwise we'll burn out before lunch, and the rest of the day is just a waste of time.
Yeah,
So
and I also said to Alois that what you're fueling here is a flame.
Yeah.
And there's two ways of emitting light. The first way is to be the candle, and the other way is to be the mirror that reflects the candle. And in this situation of multiple connected people across the world, due to the capability and affordability of tech, you have the reality where most people online in the Western and the developing world are connected to on average 120 people. Therefore, the second tier reach, if you want to use the old media term, is 14,400 of one person, and the third tier reach of one person is 1.7 million. So in the reality of the world of interconnectivity and a network society, you can focus your flame fueling on being as bright a light as you can, but perhaps the most opportune move is to enable the flames of others to be fueled, and by that then using the extreme value that's created as a networking effect.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've got a terabyte of case studies that would support different types of strategic moves of fueling that have shown that over a period of time, let's say N years, 10, 20, 30 years, if you see the companies that actually survive longest and greatest and have fueled themselves in a certain way that is more facilitative of other people's flames, they last longer and they are more profitable and more valuable than the companies that are creating a self-fulfilling or fueling a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is only around their own flame rather than the flame of others. And I think that's pretty much something along what I said, although I can't really remember. I was trying to find some notes, but of course I didn't have any notes. So yeah, was that similar to what I said, Alois?
Yeah, definitely. What you've mentioned back then was that I should be a mirror to reflect the light of other people, to increase their visibility, to help them use their fuel better.
Yeah, I mean, if in that instance, what good looks like is to be virtually invisible. And so the fueling mechanism that you actually can provide is an invisible fuel.
Yeah.
Whereas it's very, very common in this day and age, especially with the funky 5-letter domain name companies or whatever is social media, is to create a fueling mechanism that only propels your own flame. And then what you do is you drive people towards that flame, you monetize the traffic that's driven towards that flame, and your fuel then equates into overpriced market valuations, which is interesting academically. Of course, it means that over the next 10 years, it's likely that 75% plus of those companies, according to various studies from various much more clever people than me, those 75% of those companies will die out. The question is whether or not we're actually looking to fuel for the long term. Whether you're building a 30, 50, 70-year company and service, or whether you're interested in getting in, cashing out, and exiting. And I've met those people. I've been on their Sunseeker yachts, and I ask them if they're happy. And they say, no, I don't know why I'm not happy. I've got X $100 million in the bank. I should, by rights, be happy. This is all I ever wanted. And I normally say, well, what were you trying to build? What were you trying to fuel? What was the purpose of what you were fueling? And they tend to say, well, I was trying to make a lot of money. And I say, great, you've done it. Good, here, let's open the poll Roger. It worked. The problem is that doesn't actually mean anything to anyone else. And you're in a world of 7 billion people. So it's no surprise that you're sitting in a yacht in the Caribbean feeling disconnected from the world, because that's what you built.
That was really deep.
Yeah.
Well,
We've covered almost everything.
Oh, sorry. I do find it interesting that you made the connection, Jonathan, between money and happiness, because I'm a recovering investment banker, is how I describe myself. So, you know, I kind of understood that from the hard side, which is money does not bring you happiness, although it can be an extremely useful tool. Mm-hmm. But what I think when we talk to small business owners, I think that gets in the way sometimes, this notion that not so much I want to make a lot of money because I want to have a yacht, but I want to make some money because I need to feed my family, because I'm the sole breadwinner, because if this thing doesn't work, I've invested my life savings in it, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I think something that would be really interesting is when we feel that pressure as business owners and we're like, oh, I can't breathe because I know I have to do something, but I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Is there some kind of way that we could take the stress out of that moment so that we could step back and say, okay, what is the right thing for me to be focused on now, instead of just kind of flailing around and not knowing what to do next?
Absolutely, and I think I hear that a lot, and I do quite a bit of work with small business owners, and I've been a small business owner myself, and if we actually take the idealistic side away, and purely look at, okay, well, what's the best way of us actually getting to a financially stable position so we can feed our families and we can pay the rent and stuff, and grow something, what about if we just accept the fact that the way the world works involves some form of currency? How can we manage that? And I say, well, it's interesting, because if we take it from a financial side and a way of reducing that confusion, that paradox, an average organization over 11 years, according to the Costa and Heskett research report last year, 18 months ago, an average organization over 11 years has about 166% revenue increase and 1% profit increase. An exceptional organization over 11 years, according to the same study in the Corporate Culture and Performance report that I've mentioned, has a 682% revenue increase and a 756% profit increase. And so if you look at the difference, the delta between a standard, kind of an average organization and an exceptional organization, there's one clear differential between the two. And that differential is a clearly defined purpose that people believe in, inside and outside of the company. And so that sounds all nice and kind of warm and fuzzy, but if you actually deep dive into what that actually means, a clearly defined purpose, what you actually find is that strong sense of purpose is actually about shared values inside amongst employees and outside the organization amongst customers, suppliers, and stakeholders. People believe in what the organization is doing because it values them and it is of value to them. And people inside the organization feel valued and also believing in the cause and the mission and the purpose of the organization. And as Gartner said in 2012, high-performance organizations have well-defined missions that convey the reason for the organization's existence, and it inspires others to join the cause. And that is the difference between an average 1% profit increase over 11 years and a 756% profit increase over 11 years. And it also, if you drill down even greater, if you needed to, it turns out that what talented people want in their career has changed. They used to want high salaries to verify their value. Now they want purposeful jobs that clearly fit into the larger context of their life. It turns out that people inside organizations, according to Pricewaterhouse in 2012, are 50% more productive if they feel that they are of value and they feel valued. They're 33% profitable, more profitable than disengaged, purposeless employees. It goes on and on and on, and I'm not a stats junkie. I'm not into relaying loads and loads of percentages. But what I'm really into is finding out if you really want to make good money. The irony is, money isn't the thing that you seek.
Right.
Starting with the actual reason and the purpose and the clarity of that has empirical link to the profitability of an organization. So I think it's really an ordering process. People think, well, I want to get as much money as possible and then I'll work out what I'm doing. The irony is that if you actually work out what you're doing, the amount of money that you'll earn is far greater. So it would be almost undeniable from the companies over the last 10, 20, 30 years to say that the ones that have succeeded the greatest, and funnily enough, the ones that then succeed the least, are actually a purpose calculus, a purpose differential, which is why Steve Ballmer, over his 10-year reign, reduced the value of Microsoft by 40%, whereas Jack Welch, as the chief executive of General Electric, increased the company value over 30 years by 4,000%. Yeah. And it's clear. It's kind of like, okay, you've got companies with purpose who are fueled by mission and belief and value base, and companies that are seeking the dollar. And that's kind of the way that I help I try and advise small businesses to try to see things. I just say, why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why really are you doing what you're doing? Would you really clarify this as your life ambition or a goal that you have? Or are you trying to pay your rent? Because if you're a startup and you're a small business, paying your rent through being a small business is much harder. And I know because I've had 7 small businesses, 4 of which failed spectacularly. Is much harder if you're not necessarily basing what you're doing on trying to run a small business. You'd be better off getting some money in the bank through working in a normal job and then using the savings to commit to your dream, rather than try something to make lots of money, see if you can find your dream along the way, and worry that the rent guy is going to come and change the keys to your house.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's an interesting point. There are people who've expressed it different ways. Chris Brogan, for example, says money is the shadow, right? When you pursue your purpose, the money will come. And so you can't, like you said, you can't get those out of order. You can't say, what I really want to do is make a lot of money, and not understand, not necessarily the how, not the strategy part, but the why.
Yes.
What is it that I uniquely bring to the table that's going to help people, and then they'll be willing to pay for it. So
yeah, you know what? It turns out that if people feel that something is of extreme value, then people tend to pay for it. I mean, I subscribe to Friends+Me on the premium account, and I did that before I spoke to Alois. I had no loyalty to Alois to buy the premium subscription. The premium subscription that I pay, $20-30, whatever it is, I save in productivity factorially. I probably save a couple of $1,000 a month for spending $20 or $30 on Friends+Me. So my view is that's a pretty cool value exchange. I'm surprised he hasn't put the price up.
I did. I've released new pricing just today.
I know you did. I'm only kidding.
Okay.
So Alois, it sounds like that what happened was when you had this discussion with Jonathan,
yeah,
that really helped you get a lot more clarity, a lot clearer about what your contribution or your purpose or your mission was. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was trying to be a mirror since then. Because
no, you were trying to be a candle up until then. You were building a very elaborate, really nice coded candle.
Absolutely. I was building candle before then, and then I was trying to be a mirror because I was saving people's time by by reflecting their light to the right direction. Yeah, I believe.
There you go.
So, and it's not easy. It's hard. I wake up every day by asking myself what am I gonna do today? What can I do more? That's what
Well,
is it all about. So it's great. I wouldn't change it. I never want to go back to some normal company to wake up, go there, work, do blah blah blah, eat, go home, sleep, and next day the same. I I cannot live that way. No more. And
well,
Jonathan helped me to think it through much better than I would do it myself. I may have figured it out myself, but it would take me years to find the right words to describe what should I do and how should I do it.
Good.
do, do you think that that connection between your purpose, your mission, whatever you want to call it, and what you do every day, do you think that that can actually serve as fuel once you see, something silly like I have to call a client? Some of us don't like to call clients. Some of us, we don't like to get on the phone and ask for business. When you
Mhm.
can see the connection between I want to call this client because I have a service or product that can be useful for them, does that help you catalyze yourself into action and really say, okay, now I know why I'm doing this and I can do it even though it makes me uncomfortable?
Yeah, absolutely. Because once I know I can help him, I'm not selling him some product, some stupid service product or whatever. I'm helping them. I want to help them. So it's completely different point of view.
Yes, I think, and I've seen this many times. I'm sure you guys have been in this situation before. There's scenario one where you walk into a client and say, so let's say you're a small business and you're trying to build your business by B2B partner relationship, so a relationship with another business, like some form of deal. There's scenario A or scenario one, which is I've got a proposition where I'm gonna let you do all of these bits of the value chain for me, and then I'll make even more money. And that's one scenario, and I see that weekly. Scenario two is I have found a way where some of the problems that you have in your business can be solved by us. And the good news is that by us solving your problems, there's some problems that we have that will also be solved in the meantime. Shall we talk? The second scenario has an infinitely greater conversion rate than the first. And of course, it all sounds like common sense, but common sense isn't that common. And it tends not to be common because what we go in with the mindset of is, I have a KPI on a spreadsheet that says I need to have 14 deals this week. And so therefore, the person they're speaking to is a deal. The person they're speaking to isn't a person, it's not someone with a problem, it's someone who can fulfill a spreadsheet KPI, a key performance indicator. Whereas if you go in and actually think, right, spreadsheet aside, let's just work out whether or not we actually can solve multiple people's problems. And we'll see how many people's problems we can solve. And then the key performance indicator is basically in the value that's being given. It might turn out that solving 3 people's problems is more valuable than solving 20. It might turn out that if Friends+Me serves 1% of the Google Plus community, but those 1% of the Google Plus community love Friends+Me and will pay anything from 20, 30 to 50 bucks each, then the company, the small business of Friends+Me turns out to be massively valuable to a relatively small amount of people at an extremely high average revenue per user. And that business model is almost always more fruitful for every single person involved, and therefore has more longevity than a company that is trying to be a kind of bit valuable to 1 million people who kind of have to tolerate the service because they're getting something free that even though they could use somewhere else, we've kind of locked your content in to terms and conditions. So don't complain too much because it's kind of, and this is these businesses aren't fueled necessarily in a way that could be the most long-term strategy. And without mentioning any names of any companies.
Yeah, I loved the smirk at the very end of it.
Not that we're talking about anyone specifically.
None at all.
Theoretical.
All theoretical. I speak totally in theory. I never use exacts.
Examples don't.
Now I want to know.
Well, and I guess, I think maybe this is the dichotomy that a lot of people have picked up on in the marketplace for a long time. It's do you want to be a mass market product, or do you want to be a niche specific product? But I think maybe as small business owners, it's a lot more complicated for us because mass market is never anything we're going for anyway. Most of us, we're not in a market where we think that we're going to beat Procter & Gamble, or that's not who we're competing against. Maybe we're competing against the pizza place next door or across the street. So our market by definition is smaller, at least at the beginning. But how is it that we can really do a better job of identifying what we have that can be useful to the right people?
Yeah.
Is it trial and error? Is there some kind of introspection we can do? Some concrete tips maybe to help us with that.
Yeah, well, I think when I've spoken to the mom and pop stores, the local Pizza Hut, the pizza store that's next to the big chains, or the small kind of bicycle repair shop next to the chains of the kind of other brands, I normally say, what are the bits that the other companies that you're competing against aren't addressing in the user's life? What are the bits that aren't what's the real pain when you go into a major store? What is it? Is it the lack of personalized service? Is it the lack of understanding that the staff have about the product? Is it the speed of checkout? Is it the customer relationship management? Is it the fact that when you buy something from the major, huge company, you feel as if you've kind of been used? What is it? What is it the bit? And normally the small business owners that I speak to in that context come out with a list of many things that their big mountainous competitors don't do. And then I say, great. Now let's write another list. Which of those things are you providing?
Right.
And then they say, oh, well, we're just kind of obsessed with trying to be bigger. I'm like, okay, well, how's that gone? Is it okay? All right, good. Let's look at the list of what the mess is in people's life.
Right.
And let's look at what you do. And Stephanie, it's to your point. It's exactly to your point. And I think to such an extent, I think you're asking me the question so you knew what answer I was going to give. But isn't it the case? Isn't it the case that overlaying the mess that you could clear up is something that means that the price war that you might be in as a small business owner sometimes eliminates itself because the value war is far, far, far easier to battle when you're battling with a company that is definitely run by the CFO and definitely run by a P&L. And when P&L runs a company, when money is the fuel, the value disruption is immense, which is why, by all intents and purposes, Friends+Me already had competitors in the marketplace before Friends+Me opened, but they hadn't actually done the next step of crossing the bridge between what people have and what people need. And I was amazed that Hootsuite or Buffer app didn't do what Alois did. But the reality was what Buffer were doing was sending out weekly emails with cool things that they'd found on the web. It's like, cool, you know what, I've got Mashable too. Let's look at what actually I need to be solved. And what I needed to be solved is G+ content portal out, seamless experience, works beautifully. When you have to renew your LinkedIn token on Friends+, by the way, I'm not under any commission by Friends+Me. I paid my last subscription, the most recent subscription 48 hours ago came out of my bank, so it's quite the opposite. But when you upgrade your LinkedIn token or your Facebook token, The entire user journey is this. Email comes in, upgrade your LinkedIn token so Friends+Me can work for LinkedIn, click on the renew token. That's it.
Right.
That's it. There's not there is nothing more. There's not another step. Whereas if I want to unsubscribe from Ad Age, the advertising age thing, or Harvard Business Review, I have to click on unsubscribe, find the unsubscribe button, which is this big, click on it, enter my username and password, because it doesn't store my username and password, go into my subscription preferences, uncheck all the things that I don't want to be subscribed to, press submit, and then confirm that in an email. And that is to unsubscribe versus use. There's something amiss in that logic set.
Right. Well, and if you weren't willing to unsubscribe before, you certainly are by the time you finish that.
Hell yeah.
No, don't do this.
Exactly.
But it's so funny because what I was thinking as you were describing, Jonathan, was that maybe what we need to have in our minds as business owners is we don't need to let other people define for us the way we want to do business, right? Why not say it doesn't have to be that way?
Yeah.
For example, when you set up an email marketing list, well, you know, most people will tell you, you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Well, why? Why do you do all that? Well, you do all that because the people who are already in the market tell you that that's how their process works. But what if you do that? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, or worse. There's a worse one, Steph, and I think you've probably experienced it as well. Actually, I'm sure all three of you have experienced it. There's a worse version of why that could be the situation, and that's because at some point someone got the job to set the system up.
Right.
And they had to make it fairly detailed so it looked as if they'd done lots of work.
Right.
And so if you look at Lotus Notes by IBM, the email system, which is a competitor to Outlook and Gmail, arguably, Lotus Notes is created by people who were evidently tasked with creating something with 200 features, which is not necessarily how you would build an email system that is the most seamless email system. Actually, the reality is that they've created Lotus Notes to be a flame, a candle on its own. So everyone goes, all hail Lotus Notes. The best email system should be almost invisible, so you can't see that there's a system. There's no system. I want to communicate with you. We communicate. That's it. We don't need to navigate the 200 features that engineer X in IBM was rewarded for. That's bananas. And then everyone looks at the share price and goes, "Wow, it's so surprising that these companies go down in value." It's like, is it that surprising after what we've said on this call? I don't think that's surprising.
I think the problem with complex systems is that they are created complex to save millions of people problems. Everybody has different problem, and so the system have to be complex to do it all for them. But
is that right?
It's created. Yeah, I believe so. It's created to save time, but they created so complex that it don't save time at all.
Okay.
You have to hire somebody to do it for you.
Okay, Alois, I'm going to ask you a question then. Do
Yeah.
you think the people that they think they're solving problems for are people in the real world, or are they people with MBAs from engineering?
Those are engineers, of course. They're not among their customers. They don't.
That's right.
Their task is to create a solution, not to ask people what are their problem, what their problem is.
That's right. And you know what I find amazing in the marketing of some companies who are fueled by solving engineering problems, that you'll see the adverts, the billboards in their marketing, which is not engagement marketing at all. It's purely based on showing the technical spec. So it's like the latest A6 5.3 Mark II is now available with these 17 features. And the rest of the 7 billion people in the world look at it and go, but what does it mean to me? Whereas the most successful companies, just in the non-engagement broadcast media aspect for the moment, and this is advice for small business owners as well, by the way, because if you're trying to advertise your message, the last thing that you would necessarily want to advertise is the feature set. It's actually the problem-solving set. It's what is it that your small business is fueled to deliver with none of the complexities. People want to, so I click here and I do this. It's like the very cool small businesses that have become larger businesses by offering obscene value to people. Zappos was not necessarily very successful at all until Tony came along as the chief exec, took over from the founder, and said, what we have here is an internal culture issue and an external perception issue. What we should be doing is just promising the absolute ridiculously best service that anyone wanting to buy shoes could buy. So, and that's the solution. It's not based on the funky domain name or the Facebook page with multiple likes. It doesn't matter if your small business has got an almost non-existent traffic to the website. What I would be concerned is if you've got a non-existent value proposition that solves people's problems. That's the problem. It's not whether you should be on Twitter or Pinterest. It's whether or not you're actually solving problems. Huh?
You know, one of my favorite Tony Hsieh stories is, of course, almost every Tony Hsieh story involves alcohol, if you've ever noticed this. Yeah. But my favorite one is he was at one of these, conventions, shoe conventions, and they had gone out partying after, and they're sitting in the hotel room, and he says to one of his reps that sells to his company a line of shoes, Steve Madden or one of these companies. He says to the rep, I really want some pizza. Have any of you guys heard this story? I really want some pizza. Why don't you call Zappos customer service line and find out where the nearest pizza place is to us? And the rep's like, are you kidding? And he goes, and don't tell him I told you to do this. And the person calls up, and the person on the other end of the line is unfazed, completely unfazed by this call, and just goes, oh, well, hold on a second. What's your address? Oh, you're in this hotel? Okay, well, here's the 5 different places that are close by. Here's their ratings. I've never been to the town you're in, but based on what I'm seeing here, I'd go with this place. Here's the phone number. Would you like me to actually order the pizza for you?
Wow.
And,
yeah, that's company based on customer support. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's their culture. Hands down, customer service on steroids is Zappos culture, and nobody misses a beat. Everyone in the whole organization gets it.
Yeah.
And is on board to provide it. And I think that's people can get it, right? People can say, yes, I understand that's what we do here. But if they turn to the person and say, there's some jerk on the phone that wants me to find him a pizza place. Why do I have to do this? They're not the right person for that job. You want somebody who loves that, who is just as happy giving the pizza information to a client who's going to be happy as they would be selling some shoes or whatever else Zappos sells.
Those people are not just doing their job. As Jonathan said, they have a mission. And their mission is to provide the best customer support ever. Those people are selected and nurtured to think that way. So
yes, and the structure of the company is very, very important here. I mean, there's if you use, my favorite fueling mechanism for any small business or large business is change. I like the ability for people to use the perpetual change, because today's the slowest rate of change we'll ever experience, right? So I like moving from one-off change management to the management of perpetual change. I love organizations that use change as a fueling mechanism. And if you look at the types of the winds of change, you have a purpose, people, production, and process type map. And what you've just mentioned, Alois and Stephanie, is where the purpose is so clear that the people are the purpose. The production then fulfills the purpose through the people, and the processes that are in place make sure that that happens seamlessly and quickly. And I think that it does require an infrastructure inside a company, small or large, whether there's one person whether there's 2 people or 2,000 or 20,000 people. There needs to be an infrastructure inside a company that is flat enough in hierarchy so that everyone is able to fulfill the purpose.
Yeah.
But not so flat that people who are less illuminated to what should be done, that they have no one to go to. And which is kind of like the fallacy of flat architecture, flat hierarchies. It's all well and good to have no one with any job title, and everyone has got the same role. But if you look at the companies with a flat hierarchy, like Gore, for instance, in WL Gore, what they actually have is they have very, very small teams of, let's say, 50 people who work as small incubation innovation hubs. And when a new idea comes along, they're given the rights to try, learn, and adjust. And then they try another thing, then they learn from that, and then they adjust. And they try, learn, adjust, try, learn, adjust, try, learn. And they create little windmills of insight. But that's how it's structured. Whereas if you go to a company like I don't want to mention any of the people that might be watching. If you go to a company like let's say a traditional newspaper. A traditional newspaper company has got an editorial team that are not anything to do with advertising sales, who are not anything to do with any of the other part, the production quality. And so what you actually have is the problem where people say, well, this isn't my job. Someone will call up the editorial team and say, I've realized that the quality of the paper is getting really inky. And the editorial team say, have you got a story? And it's that if the editorial team's purpose was to enable content to be digested and consumed easy as possible, the quality of the ink is material, literally and metaphorically. It's materially important to their editorial. But companies aren't necessarily structured like that.
Well, and I guess the thing that says to me, what I was hearing while you were saying that as a small business person myself, is there's an element of risk, right? There's a lot of risk associated with empowering someone to make a decision in your place, for example. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, if you say to your salesperson, you know what, I just want you to make this sale, or I just want you to create something that's going to make this client happy. You get that, I think most people, I know I get it, that kind of, but what if they make a mistake, right? Because now we're talking about my money, and now we're talking about my livelihood. And so I think something else that I'd love to hear your opinion on in the time we have, oh my gosh, this has gone so fast, but is how we can turn our fear, how we can turn that kind of moment of panic into some fuel. So instead of the reaction being, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, let me hold everything for myself and only make the decisions myself, is there a way that we can transform that fear into something proactive that's going to help us move forward and actually empower our employees or build better relations with our clients or whatever it is we need to do?
Yes, there is, and it's really simple to say and really complicated to do. So I will say it, and for the fullness of time whilst this video exists, people may watch this, what I'm just about to say, and say, well, that's too simple. But the reality is that it is all it is. Here goes. The fear that you've just described is almost always based, as I'm sure we all know, based on control. And the reason that control is the fuel of the fear is because what you're actually trying to control is your own fortune, either because you don't want to lose money or because you don't want someone to overperform and steal your job. You don't necessarily want someone else to win the award so they get to go to Cannes and party till they're blind, and you get to go and fill in the expense forms. And so if it is the case that control is a self-fulfilling fear, then that means that the purpose that you're driving through is your own purpose. It's your own agenda. And so it sounds slightly easy to say, but it is extraordinarily real, is that I would suggest that if we feel that fear, we have to look at ourselves and think, what is it that I'm actually defending? And here comes the kicker, is my defense of this that fuels this control and fear, is this, or is it not, propelling the purpose of our organization? Is my fear helping or hindering this organization? And here's a quote for you. Is this fear a fuel or
Yeah,
or
as you said.
is this fear a fuel or a foe, F-O-E, an enemy of our organization? And so we feel it, we observe it, we stop, we question. Is this fueling what we're trying to do? Is it an enemy to what we're trying to do? Or am I actually fearful because I'm protecting what I'm doing? And as a manager, if anyone's watching here now or in the future, who's wondering whether or not as a manager, it's natural to feel that you kind of almost have to feel a bit controlling. It's great if you feel controlling, provided that your control is fueling the purpose of the organization. And then I would be unapologetic about what you're trying to control. And like him or loathe him, and I've had the benefit of working, advising Apple on many ways in many years, like him or loathe him, the reason Steve's sociopath or whatever you like, no social grace, what he was actually doing was trying to enable the purpose of creating insanely brilliant devices at the intersection of industrial design and human interfaces. And if there are any B team players, you're out. If the tiles on the floor of the Apple store weren't good enough, they get changed. If the geniuses in the Apple Genius Bar aren't actually geniuses, you're out. And I don't necessarily like that management style, but I tell you what, the $600 billion valuation, whatever you call it, is absolutely aligned to the fact that when you have someone who is totally clear on what their purpose is, everything else falls into place. And that's not suggesting you need to be like Steve Jobs, but what it is what a unified purpose looks like.
As you said, it's easy to say, hard to do.
There you go.
Well, and what it requires, to me at least, it requires being sufficiently comfortable with what your values are
Yes.
to be able to say to my employees, this is what we do here. This is what we do here. And if you don't like it, then that's okay. I will find somebody else who agrees with me on this. And that, I think, a lot of times as a very small company is very hard to say, because you say to yourself, oh, but if they walk out, oh my God, how am I going to get it produced? How am I going to get it shipped? What's going to happen? And I think what I hear you saying is you can't worry about that at the beginning. You absolutely have to focus on, does this person get it? You know,
Yes.
or is this really what needs to happen to make the company move forward?
Yes.
And then I make my decisions.
It all comes down.
Yes.
It all comes down to battling our own fears. It's just all you have to do when you wake up. You have to fight some fear of that A, B, C, D, whatever it is. All you have to do is to fight that fear.
Yeah. And as a footnote to what you just said, Alois, and as the footnote to your point, Stephanie, very briefly, the opportunity cost, or rather the risk of not being bold, not being brave, the opportunity cost of enabling that to just slide is so much worse than the feeling of being slightly too descriptive. If you shy from that, what you end up with is a team of people where if you speak to all 5 people in a company, all 5 of them have a different view of what you're trying to achieve. That, my friends, is business poison. That's business poison. And the end starts as soon as you allow it to happen. And it grows. It starts off like a pain in the ass, and it kills you as a company eventually.
Well,
Okay, I got to jump in here. We are, this is an amazing show. I think we need to try and figure out a way to get Jonathan to come back.
yeah, we can go on for hours. Jonathan is so.
There's a couple of things that we still need to do really quickly. So I'm going to jump through our quotes rather quickly this week. I'm echoing. I know I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
You're not wearing headphones.
Normally, I don't have to wear headphones because
It's because of Alois. It's his fault.
yeah.
What?
Okay.
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
All right. So
It's called blamestorming, Alois. It's called blamestorming. No brainstorming. It's called blamestorming.
Brainstorm. I think I will learn to play this stupid game.
all right. So let's go through the quotes this week. All right. So this one is my own quote. Well, it's not me. I didn't say it. Lance King, the CEO of Intaline, said this about 1,000 times this week. Because if you've been watching my profile, you've noticed we've been painting our new offices. And in fact, we have painted our offices in the 5 colors of our logo. It is hands down the brightest office anywhere in the world. But only 2 of our 10 members have done any painting before, myself and Lance King. And he needed to get the people to understand, use enough paint that we don't have to do a second quote, or a second coat, quote. And so he said this over and over and over again, but I think it's a great business alignment both to what we're saying here and to business in general. Paint is cheaper than labor. That's the quote. And it helps you to understand, okay, well, put enough paint on that I don't have to paint twice. But it allows you to think through a lot of things. It gives you the ability to process what's going on instead of just don't paint twice. Well, that limits the ability for us to, carry this over into other areas of our business. So that quote, it doesn't exactly have to do with fuel, but it definitely tied in with today's lesson. Christine Bowen gave us this one, and it's interesting because we got it from 2 different people. I am building a fire, and every day I train. I add more fuel. At just the right moment, I light the match.
And then run like hell.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved that one. And this one came in from Zara. I think this is her own quote. Zara, I know you're in the audience, so correct us if I'm wrong. Only true love can fuel the hard work that awaits you. So those are our 3 quotes. We don't really have a lot of time to actually converse on them because we only have 2 minutes left. And we need to go through the stats from the questionnaire this week. So 4 people felt that fuel, I spelled that wrong. How surprising. Fueled.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, Dennis.
I spell everything wrong.
We know what you meant. It's all right.
We will tell no one.
Yeah, no one will ever know.
No one will have any clue that Dennis has no idea how to spell anything. Okay.
You have other skills.
Yeah,
Thank you,
definitely.
So, energy was 67% of the synonyms to the word fuel. Nourishment was
Sugar is bad. Don't eat sugar.
The antonyms that we had were a little more split up. Disencouragement, depletion, lethargy, and disinterest. So the strongest one was lethargy, but was a little broken up, which was interesting.
Yeah.
This was also broken up. People don't use fuel that much in running their small business. My guess is that if we were to have everybody that filled out the questionnaire go back and fill it out after today's discussion, these numbers would change significantly. That's my statistical guess.
Also, if you had an others field, so people could put in words that weren't necessarily shown, that might also be useful.
Yes.
Great point.
Good thought there.
Bingo. Yeah.
Okay, these are the hashtag names that we came up with. Again, we don't have a clear winner here. Friend Man got 2, and I'm one of those 2. We had Friender, we had Share Plus Man, FPM Man, and 2 others. I'd have to look up what those other 2 were. So
There you
we
go.
do not have a concise answer on Alois'
On a hashtag.
hashtag superhero name, and we didn't actually know who Jonathan was early enough to have him in on this. So please, if you've got some ideas on Jonathan's hashtag name, or if you want to get creative and give us some suggestions on Alois's hashtag superhero name.
I think Jonathan's can be awesome. Yeah.
You're so kind. Thanks,
There's
man.
nothing less. Just awesome.
Just awesome.
Oh, come on.
Is it your logo?
Yeah. I can do the plus.
You know, that's a great logo. People do it all the time, right? So make it your own logo, and voila, now everyone is just branding off you all the time.
Actually, I've used a picture with somebody doing this. Jonathan did. I've left hands. Have you?
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah,
All right. And the last thing we had was a picture of me painting this week, and it didn't. Says right up here at the top. Unable to create.
I love this. I love this color. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? This is the white space of opportunity for every small business that's watching.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go. The white space of opportunity.
There you go. That's what we're going to call that slide from now on.
Yeah. Go and paint.
Yeah,
Yep.
fill it in.
All right. So I'm going to come back on screen. Here we are.
There he is.
Hey.
I'm back. All right. So those are our quotes. Those are our stats. Next week, Stephanie, who do we have?
Next week, we're going to be joined by Phyllis Kerr. And I'm very excited because we're going to be talking about discipline. Phyllis is actually, she's got a program that helps you manage your time. So get yourself a little disciplined in how you manage your time. But she's got some really great ideas just about how you can stick to the things that you have committed to do in your business and how that can help you accelerate your business growth.
I'll have to watch that show because I'm undisciplined, absolutely. And I never, time management, none I've tried worked for me.
Well,
I'm just like animal.
Well, her program is actually very interesting because it's based 100% on Google Calendar, but it's really using Google Calendar as a feedback mechanism as opposed to thinking, a lot of people do this with finance too, they think of a budget as some sort of rules, and once you break them, you may as well just give up, right, because you've missed it. And what she really talks about, she'll explain it more next week, but is this notion that what you want to do is get into this feedback loop with your calendar. And so when you go to your calendar and you recognize that, hey, I've got nothing left, I've got no time left, you need to go back to your core values and say, is the time I'm spending today matching up with where I want my life to be, and what can I move somewhere else so that I make time for the things that are important to me?
Yeah,
So
I do that, and that's what I love. That's why I run Inbox Zero the whole time, and I won't be able to join next week because I'll be at Burning Man in Black Rock City. So I'm doing Burning Man, so I won't be there unfortunately to join you.
You could catch the replay, right?
I will. I guarantee you I will. I'll +1 it as well. I'll share it via Friends+Me.
Yes. Thanks.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys. So here's how we close down our show each week. Stephanie is going to give us her closing thoughts and anything that she wants to promote. I'm often fond of using the word pimp.
Dennis!
It's just a great word. Just, pimp it out there. Anyway, so
Pimp it out. Okay.
after Stephanie goes, then we're going to go to Alois. Same thing. Closing thoughts on today's subject and anything you want to promote. Jonathan, you, and then I will take us out. So, Stephanie.
Well,
you.
Okay, perfect. First off, I want to say a huge thank you to Alois and to Jonathan for joining us today. I really loved the ideas that we came up with, for entrepreneurs, how they can try to create some fuel for themselves, how they can try to connect their mission into what they're doing every day and turn that into fuel. And especially the thing that was most important to me was this notion of fear, how we can change our fear into fuel by reminding ourselves what our mission is. So that was really my big takeaway, because it's something I struggle with. So, it's always nice to get something for myself out of this too. And as a lot of people, anyone who watches this all the time knows, we have recently launched the site finance-ability.com, which is a place where business owners can go to learn more about what the right source of funding is for them. With a quick 25-question test, you can understand where you should be looking for money, and we can help you make the most of that particular funding option right there on the site. So if you're looking for money or you think you might need to in the future, feel free to swing by and let me know if you've got any questions.
All right, Alois.
Well, my final words: save fuel, focus. Don't forget to use Friends+Me, and definitely you should check out Jonathan's Thought Expansion Network, because it will blow your mind. Definitely.
All right, Jonathan.
Well, I have nothing to promote because I play a very, very small part in people's lives by expanding people's thinking. So everything about me can be found on jonathanmacdonald.com, including links to the Thought Expansion Network, which goes live properly in September, but you can still register right now. It's free anyway. But yeah, there's nothing to promote. If anything that I've said has added value, then I'd more than happily try and help if I possibly can in the future. The main thing I'd like to promote is this point, which I think has been echoed across today, which is basically that ultimately what you have as a fueling mechanism is what you're actually standing for and believing in, and your mission. And if you remember nothing else than this, I would offer that if you look at your business and look at your career and look at your people and look at what you produce and look at your customers, where is the value that you're creating? What is the reason why you're doing what you're doing for? And if you need a question to have in the front of your mind, ask yourself, if we didn't exist, who would care? And if you know you're onto a good thing, is when if you remove yourself out of the industry, then it would really, 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 really be missed. And that care is a proxy for the purpose that you have and the mess that you're solving and the problems that you're eliminating. And I wish you all the best in your adventure. Namaste.
You're a poet.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much, guys. This has been a fantastic show. I can hardly wait to get in and start editing and cutting up some of the key segments of this show, because there is just some great content in here today.
It's been an absolute pleasure being with you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And my announcement this week is this is all going away. I'm moving my office up to the offices we've been painting, so my background will be blue and yellow. And got a whole new studio being actually framed today and soundproof. So you may see me coming from all sorts of different locations. I'm going to have 5 or 6 different backdrops that I can sit in. So I'm pretty excited about what's moving forward with Intalign and its alignment with what we're about, and there will be lots of more exciting things as Interline progresses. So there you go. That's it. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will have our questionnaire on discipline coming out. We did not get it done before the show, which we normally try to, all because of my painting. But this weekend, be watching for it. It will come out. Love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. And thank you very much. We will see you guys all next week.
Thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you soon.